Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to make a video about MCAS, so mast cell activation syndrome, and everything that I know about it because I have quite a few people that ask me about it, and I have seen comments on my videos asking about that or histamine intolerance. And so I just want to share, if you suspect you have this problem and you're not sure where to go or where to begin, all of the resources that I know of that are what's the right word, legitimate, and yeah, I guess good places to start with this, because when I suspected that I may have MCAS or histamine intolerance, I didn't even know where to begin. And when I asked people who I know had been through it, I got very overwhelmed and confused. And so if you're feeling that same way, I'll share in as in a simplistic way as possible where to sort of begin based on my experience and my research, and lead you to people who could get into more detail and that could help you address things more specifically, again, based on my research. So before I get into it, I wanted to mention again that I am doing one-on-one coaching. I do 15-minute free consultations, 30-minute calls and 60-minute calls, and I offer them at lower rates than other places online. And I've also packaged together 4-session packages for those who may want to meet a little more regularly, and that is at a further discounted rate. So I'll put the link to my online booking calendar in the description of this video, as well as a link to my website if you're interested in learning more about my story and reading my bio. I do have long videos on this channel detailing my withdrawal journey and my reinstatement disaster story, so you can check those out if you want to see all of the details. But into this video, so MCAS, so mast cell activation syndrome. So again, this is everything that I know. I'm by no means an MCAS expert, but I did spend a significant amount of time immersing myself in the literature and the information because I thought that I potentially have this condition. I don't know for sure if I do now. So I'm a little bit more suspecting that I don't now, but I'm glad that I have the information because I know a lot of people, specifically with benzos and benzo withdrawal, develop this condition and ask me about it. And so I'm going to give you the information I know. So benzos are mast cell stabilizers, and when you go off them, the histamine and the mast cells that house the histamine in your body can release an excess and cause, it's like withdrawal. It can cause every system in your body to sort of go haywire. So when you think about histamine, at least the way I've always thought about it, is when you have an allergic reaction, say you have hay fever, seasonal allergies, what do? What does your doctor prescribe? They prescribe antihistamines. And so you're trying to lower the level of histamine in your body and prevent these mast cells from being so like sensitized and like releasing too much histamine. Also, from what I've read, I don't know if it's all psychiatric drugs or just benzos, they can impair the DAO enzyme. The DAO enzyme is what helps break down histamine in the body so that you don't build up an excess. So your body can get rid of the excess histamine using this DAO enzyme that breaks it down. There's another enzyme involved. I can't remember what it's called now, but those are the two main ones from my understanding. And so if you've taken benzos and you're going into withdrawal, mast cell activation syndrome can really cause multiple chemical sensitivities, and it can cause your body to be overreactive to so many things. There's a huge long list. Like, you can look on reputable websites online to see the list of MCAS symptoms, and I don't want you to become afraid. Like, again, we have really sensitized nervous systems when we're in withdrawal and are very suggestible or suggestive. Sometimes I never know the right exact word, but so I don't want you to freak out if you read that you have a couple of these symptoms when you look this up and be like, oh my goodness, now I have to contend with this on top of withdrawal. I've shared in other videos that things like long COVID, mast cell activation syndrome, protracted withdrawal, even sometimes, like, from what I've gathered, like chronic Lyme disease, multiple chemical sensitivities, a lot of these are very similar in a lot of ways. So they involve nervous system dysfunction. They involve a lot of times like the gut, the liver, inflammation underlies a lot of these conditions from what I've gathered. So I don't want you to freak out and be like, oh my goodness, now I have MCAS. This is just for information purposes, and you may from your own research on the forums, suspect that you have this. So some from some places I've read, they say one of the first indications that people clue into when they have histamine intolerance is they start to have skin issues. This is why I suspected that I might have it, because I developed hives or eczema or some type of chronic rash after I had COVID in November of 2023. 80% of that has resolved now. I won't get into the details of that, but this is what led me to a lot of my histamine research. I had done it before the rashes because I was on benzos and was having such extreme symptoms from them, and I knew other people in this community that had MCAS from benzos. So I had done research prior, but I've done extensive research since I developed my own skin problems. And what I know about it, first of all, if you suspect you have it and you want more information, but you don't want me to just suddenly start blabbering like every single thing I know, because again, anything chronic and things that are multi-systemic, it's typically pretty complex. But I would encourage you to follow Dr. Becky Campbell on Instagram. She's an MCAS expert, and she's someone who healed her own MCAS, and she had it quite severely. There's Dr. Afrin as well. I have not read his book. I have it downloaded, but I haven't read it. But I know he is a well-known expert in the field of MCAS and MCAS research. So you may want to look up his books. I think you can find them online for free, or you can find them through Amazon. I believe you can buy his books on MCAS. So again, what I know about MCAS is that if you are not addressing the nervous system when you're trying to heal from it, then it's almost wasted effort, because there is a huge underlying component of nervous system dysregulation when it comes to mast cell activation syndrome. So getting your nervous system under control is a big part. Now, you might be freaking out and being like, well, I'm in withdrawal. My nervous system is completely screwed. How am I ever supposed to heal from either withdrawal or MCAS or both, since they're related a lot of the time? And my own personal belief is, if you are taking really good care of your health and nurturing your nervous system as much as you can through self-care, I think a lot of the symptoms of withdrawal for sure dissipate on their own. And you can, your body is constantly trying to achieve homeostasis. That's what it does. It tries to bring itself back into balance. So I think, like, if you can sort of get out of your own way, so to speak, and not be worrying too much about, because I've mentioned this before, people get really caught up on, well, I have hormones that are a little bit out of whack and I have suboptimal minerals. Like, shouldn't I be correcting this in order to fix my withdrawal? And my answer to that is typically, don't worry about those things so much in acute, because your whole body's out of whack. Your focus is on survival and getting through until you get windows and waves, or you get some space from your symptoms. I think then once you're further down the line, you can start addressing these other things. And you might not even have to address them, because again, your body is trying to find that homeostasis, and it can correct a lot of these things on its own, in my opinion. But you may need to have to work on other things further down the line just to sort of get you over the final hump of recovery. But don't explore those until you have a little bit of healing under your belt, so to speak. And the nervous system dysfunction, again, I think a lot of it, your body can get there a lot of the way on its own. But if you are looking to explore further healing modalities, I've talked about, brain retraining programs, DNRS, Gupta, there's NLP, there's Primal Trust. There's different online programs that address this limbic system dysfunction, this overarching like chronic fight or flight response that people have from several different syndromes. And I believe protracted withdrawal falls into that, or withdrawal. So that would be potentially one way to address the nervous system dysfunction. Just calming down your nervous system in general is the goal of both of these, obviously protracted withdrawal and MCAS. But the nervous system component is a huge part. Some people claim it's the biggest part of healing from MCAS. So again, like, once you get out of this withdrawal state, your MCAS may go away on its own, or you might have developed it before from some other, I don't know, it's related to several different chronic things. Another thing I've learned about it is people in protracted withdrawal and MCASers, they tend to obsess about diet sometimes, because with MCAS and with withdrawal, people are developing these sensitivities or these reactions to benign things. So foods that they're reacting to. In the MCAS population, it's tends to be high histamine foods or histamine liberating foods or things like that. So what would fall under a high histamine category would be alcohol, aged foods, fermented foods, aged cheeses, things like vinegars and soy sauces and those types of things, processed meats. So you definitely want to avoid those if you have a histamine or MCAS issue. So that's one thing. But from what I've gathered also is that almost more so than the food, because people tend to get really obsessed with foods. Like sometimes some of these food lists say that this is low histamine, but others say it's high histamine and I don't know what to eat, so I'm not going to eat anything, or I'm going to eat the same 3 foods every day. And what I've learned about that is that can actually cause more problems because you become so stressed about the foods, what you can and can't eat. It perpetuates that nervous system fight or flight response, which is what you don't want. Also, it can start to rob your body of vital nutrients, and it can create the stress of everything, can create more inflammation and it just becomes this vicious cycle. So rather than focusing on individual foods, the best approach, in my opinion, is to, and from what everything I've read from these experts, is that you should eat low histamine foods. So basically whole foods that aren't aged and fermented, and also anti-inflammatory, because the inflammation is a big part of MCAS from what I've gathered. Because people will say too, well, don't I need to address detox pathways and don't I need to address gut health? And I think definitely those are part of it too. But I think like protracted withdrawal, the first 2 things are the nervous system and the lowering the inflammation through diet, and then addressing those other things further down the line, or when you have a little bit of a foundation of healing under your belt. Because it can get so complicated and so overwhelming, because people are like, should I be doing infrared saunas and castor oil packs, and should I be doing the GAPS diet for my gut health? Should I be taking probiotics, low histamine probiotics? Should I be, because it's so overwhelming. But again, I think if you get stressed about it and overwhelm yourself even more with the stress, that's going to create further problems than just which list do I follow. That's again from what I've gathered. And there are people who have severe MCAS, and I'm not sure if this is MCAS solely related to withdrawal or related to another cause, but some people take mast cell stabilizers, so like cromolyn, and there's or DAO enzyme. So I talked earlier in this video about how benzos and potentially other psych drugs can inhibit or impair the DAO enzyme, which breaks down histamine. So there are supplements you can take to boost that, to fix that, and then take mast cell stabilizing medication. So not benzos, but I mean, there's other ones specially formulated for that. Again, I think that those are things potentially to explore further down the line, or if you are in a severe state of MCAS, I recommend, like I know Dr. Becky Campbell on her Instagram page, she does consultations. I think they might be pricey. I'm not sure. I haven't done that myself, but that would be a good place to start if you're looking for expert one-on-one personalized approach. That would be where I would go if I was going to take the next step in, hiring someone potentially to help me through the intricacies of MCAS and related problems. Also, a good website is mastcell360.com. I know that she is, I don't know her exact label. She's some type of nutritionist, functional medicine, something. And she also healed her own MCAS. And so she has a lot of good recipes and blog posts and information on there. But again, it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of information on there, but it is a reputable place to go. Also, healinghistamine.com. So that lady, that was someone that was very influential for me when I was really stuck in, do I have these histamine MCAS problems? So she's someone who healed her own severe MCAS. She took every type of psych drug and everything. I don't know if that was the cause of her MCAS or what they were using to try to fix it when they weren't sure what was wrong with her. But she was able to get off all of the meds and heal herself through nervous system meditation work and an anti-inflammatory diet. And she kind of breaks it down a little bit more simply than some of these other, like the Mast Cell 360 is quite overwhelming. the articles you read on there will have 15 different links in there that link you to other articles, and it just becomes these constant like long posts that you're reading. And I think the healing histamine is great because it's more compact and it's simpler. She breaks it down into simpler language and simpler. She does offer she has some recipe books and some, I think they're mini courses or ebooks that you can buy. She has those on her website as well. But if you just go to her website, she does have a lot of good free information there as well. So that's what I know about MCAS. And it is another very confusing thing, and it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent in our society. And I wonder if it's because the levels of stress are just going up and up and up. The cost of living is so high, and everything we went through with COVID, and people are more and more medicated nowadays. And like I said, benzos are mast cell stabilizers, and more people are getting prescribed them. And so we're having these almost epidemics of things like MCAS and histamine intolerance, which from what I remember, were completely unheard of, or at least undiagnosed, or there was not enough information or any information when I was a kid. I had never heard of such things. Even as a 25-year-old, I never heard of such things. And these things are becoming so prevalent. And so I wonder if it's just because we live in such a fast-paced, like high cost of living. It's hard to make ends meet now. And we have this overwhelming wealth of information online. We're spending all this time online, and so much pressure nowadays, and it's harder and harder to live a simple life. So I wonder if that's what's underlying a lot of these issues as well, because it seems like there's a lot of stress healing that has to come when you're healing from a lot of these chronic things I just talked about. Multiple chemical sensitivities, electric hypersensitivity syndrome, even chronic Lyme disease, and long COVID, and all these things. And again, these are just my opinions and based on my research, but there's definitely seems to be a nervous system component to all of these. So I wonder if our increased stress of our fast-paced society and stressful, busy lives are contributing to these things. So anyway, I don't want to go off on too many tangents here. Let me know in the comments, do you have MCAS or suspect you do? Do you have histamine issues? Histamine intolerance and MCAS are two different things, but they are closely related. You can do more research on those through what the recommendations I gave you in this video as well. But have you had these things, and have you worked to correct them? How far have you gotten? What have you found in your own research and your own healing? I'm always curious to know. So let me know in the comments. But I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.